for February the 13th. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Abdelgawad.
Here.
Councilmember Barber.
Present.
Councilmember Berenson.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Present.
Councilmember Forster.
Present.
Councilmember Holman.
Present.
Councilmember Townsend.
Present.
Councilmember Wills.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow. Absent.
Yes. And before I move on, I just wanted to acknowledge, yes, the mayor is absent tonight. I'm the mayor pro tem serving in his absence this evening. So at this time, if you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I don't believe there's any presentations or awards this evening or personal appearances. Seeing none, Mr. Fairborn, I turn over to you for staff reports.
Thank you, sir. I would ask the city planner to make a report for development services.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council. You'll see in your packet tonight the monthly report for January. Just a couple of items that we wanted to highlight as we're going around town. On the east side, just west of Ward Road, Alexander Creek Phase 3 has applied for building permits, and actually a couple of them have started to be issued. So you should start seeing some more concrete and things of that nature coming in the next month or so. Renovations have also started for Subway. They've changed their branding, and so you'll see a little change there, but mainly on the inside is what you'll see. Also, if you've driven by Culver's lately, you've also started to see a job trailer, some more heavy machinery, some site work taking place for what was recently approved for Starbucks. And just coming up in your next meeting for February 27th, there will be 4 items in front of you. Most of them will be final plats. It will be Parkside first plat, Parkside Park, which is actually part of the dedication for the dog park, Sunset Lane, which will be the extension south from future 163rd Street down to the south property line of Parkside subdivision. And then finally, Parkside Phase 1 MOU, which is just an amendment to the original MOU, which has some triggering mechanisms for the extension of 163rd towards North Madison. This would conclude staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Eppert. Any questions of staff? Yes, Mr. Holman.
Thank you, Mr. Eppert. Excellent report. I would be remiss if I did not ask about that bow tie, sir.
It was a gift.
It stands out, and it is very festive, especially in the time frame that we're in, sir. Well done.
I figured it was perfect. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there any more questions, staff? Mr. Fairborn?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I would ask the city clerk to make a report.
Thank you, sir. Each year, the City of Raymore adopts an ordinance establishing procedures to disclose potential conflicts of interest. This ordinance calls for Jim Fairborn as the Chief Administrative Officer and Kim Quaddy as the Chief Purchasing Officer to file financial disclosure statements on an annual basis. This staff report confirms that their statements have been filed with the Missouri Ethics Commission before the May 1st deadline. The reports are on file and available for inspection in my office. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of staff on this particular item? Mr. Fairborn?
Thank you, Ms. Hill. I would ask Chief to make a report for Police Emergency Management.
I just have a brief comments here. With the upcoming anticipation of increased vehicles and traffic for the meeting coming up on the 16th, the evening over at Centerview, we will be out in the area doing traffic enforcement. We're going to remind folks that the sunset from 58 Highway to Pine Street, that area is designated as no parking on the north side and the south side between those streets. The surrounding businesses, they have all been contacted and know that there may be a lot of cars there the evening, so their parking lot may be used as well. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Any questions of Chief? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Just a reminder to the council that next week is, on Monday is President's Day, so there will be no council meeting that evening. Instead, we're going to make up for it with a huge meeting on Thursday night at 6 p.m., as the chief has just indicated, the 16th, to fulfill those actions that the council can as relative to State Statute 26205, subsection 9. That concludes staff report this evening, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Freeborn. Moving on, if there's no other questions of staff for Mr. Freeborn at this time, moving on to, don't believe have any committee reports this evening. And
We do not, sir.
thank you. So that brings us to the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Holman?
Sir, I move at this time that we approve the consent agenda as presented, to include item A, the city council meeting minutes of the January 23rd, 2023 meeting of the Raymore City Council, and item B, approval of the safety traffic enforcement program, otherwise known as STEP.
Thank you. There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. There's been a motion to approve the consent agenda items A, city council meeting minutes for January 23rd, and item B, the approval of safety traffic enforcement program, resolutions 2305 and resolutions 2306. Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 8-0. Moving on to unfinished business, may I have the second reading of the Bill 3774?
The second reading of Bill 3774 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving an agreement with the Mid-America Regional Council Solid Waste Management District relating to the Regional Household Hazardous Waste Program.
Thank you. Is there a staff report or no report necessary?
No report necessary for unfinished business, sir.
Thank you, sir. If there's no further questions on this item, entertain a motion to dispose. Mr. Holman?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Sir, I move at this time that we approve Bill 3774, the Mark Household Hazardous Waste Agreement.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
There's been a motion and a second on this item. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries 8-0. Could I have the second reading of Bill 3775 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3775 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the Edgewater at Creekmore 8th Plat, lots 230 through 241, and tracks K and L located in Section 4, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. If there's no further questions on this item, I entertain a motion to dispose.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Holman?
Sir, I move at this time that we approve Bill 3775, the Edgewater at Creekmore 8th Final Plat.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. May I have the second reading of Bill 3776 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3776 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the Edgewater at Creekmore 9th Plat, lots 242 through 252, and tracks M and N located in Section 4, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion on this item, I entertain a motion to dispose.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Holman?
Sir, I move at this time that we approve Bill 3776, Edgewater at Creekmore 9th Final Plat.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to new business, may I have the first reading, may I have the reading of Resolution 2304?
The reading of Resolution 2304 by title only, a resolution of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the location of a non-sales tax generating business within Foxwood Village Shops Tax Increment Financing Incentive District.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Freeborn. Is there a staff report on this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I will start this off with Mr. Keller making the initial part of the staff report. He will be introducing from there.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Tonight I present to you a request for approval of a non-sales tax generating business to be located within the Foxwood Village shops in the form of a proposed Tunnel Vision car wash. In accordance with the TIF contract, the city must provide their consent prior to the location of a non-sales tax generating business within this incentive district. That contract provides the following related to the location of a non-sales tax generating business within the district exceeds the 10% non-sales tax generating threshold. The developer has agreed to a pilot payment and constructing a median on 58 Highway in replace of a non-sales tax generator. City staff recommends that the City Council approve Resolution 2304 for the proposed location of a non-sales tax generating business within the Foxwood Village Shops Tax Increment Financing District, subject to the conditions set forth therein. I will now turn it over to Jason and Bonert to give their presentation and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Good evening, council members and Mayor Pro Tem. My name is Jason Bonert. I'm with Tunnel Vision. I'm here with my partners, Ethan Weiner, Josh Snyder, also our general counsel, Wesley Carrillo, and Josh Moore, our general contractor. Want to apologize in advance. My voice gets a little scratchy. I was up a little bit late last night yelling. Wanted to make sure that the Chiefs could hear me in Arizona, so I don't know if it worked or not, so I apologize about that. As Mr. Keller said, we are proposing a 150-foot tunnel car wash in the Foxwood Village area. We will have approximately 25 vacuum stalls with that. To the right page here, I apologize. As you can see in the site plan here, we will have 3 pay lanes that's going to help give us the max efficiency, give us smaller lines, reduce wait times of customers not backing into other drives or in the roads or some of the things that we see in other car washes currently. We're trying to be very conscious of the neighborhood that we're in and our neighbors around us. Due to that, on the west side, we will be putting up a noise reducing wall and also noise suppressors on all of our blowers coming out of the tunnel. Our vacuum motor will be fully enclosed. The elevations on the south, we've talked with our engineer. We're going to make sure that those are high enough that we don't have to worry about any headlights coming into the neighborhood back there. Also, the elevations will once again reduce the noise as well. All property lines, from what we've researched, again working with our engineer, is all property lines are going to be at 65 decibels or below. A standard conversation between 2 people is between 60 and 70 dB. So our goal is that at every property line, again, we'll be at 65 or less decibels. So again, we do want to be very conscious and mindful of all of our neighbors, not create a lot of noise. Another thing that I wanted to point out that honestly I did not know until we entered this and got a lesson from an engineer, but noise actually doesn't stack. So that's a common misconception, including one that I had. So if you have 65 decibels now, so such as from Culver's, just traffic on 58 driving back and forth. Also with Starbucks going in there, obviously Starbucks is going to create a lot of additional traffic. The speaker taking orders, things like that. I know those aren't extremely loud, but again, a normal conversation isn't very loud. So it's very possible that they're already creating a 65 decibel amount of noise. Again, if they're creating 65, we come in and recreate 65 as well. Those don't stack and go to 130. It just will be still a 65 decibel range. So. Next slide here. You can see this a rendering of our building. You can see it's a nice looking modern building. We do want to have large windows, create a nice open feel instead of being in a concrete building that kind of makes you a little bit claustrophobic. We want to keep it very clean, very nice looking, again, very modern, make sure that it fits a good image for the city of Raymore.
couple of differences that we're going to have versus a lot of other tunnel car washes. We're going to have the latest and greatest technology. We are going to have a conveyor belt instead of the traditional chain and roller. There's several advantages to that, but one thing is the chain and roller. I'm sure most of you have probably been through a tunnel car wash. You got to worry about hitting that little track. You worry about popping your tire, about scratching a wheel. If you happen to drive, a sports car or something with a wide tire, or even a dually, you can't use the car washes. Ours will be able to accommodate all of those. And also, it's just 2 flat conveyor belts. If you think about, like, you go to the grocery store, it's got the conveyor, obviously on a larger size, but 2 conveyor belts so you can just pull right on. There is no track that you have to worry about hitting or damaging your car. Also, another thing, if you can see there in the top right-hand corner, it looks like there's kind of a big TV mounted to the outside of the building. What that is, that's our loading screen. That's something that we're pretty excited about. That actually plays into our name, Tunnel Vision, actually getting a vision of the tunnel coming into it. So again, that's another thing, pulling into a tunnel. Some operators are better than others as far as guiding you onto the track. What this actually does is it's got a camera, and it actually imposes the picture of your car and actually puts your car up there on that screen and shows exactly where you're at on the track, so you can make adjustments. It actually starts from about 50 feet back, so you can tell if you're right on line with the conveyor. Once you get inside, there will be another smaller loading screen off to the left that you can make a final adjustment to hit that belt nice and easy. We will also have an operator out there as well to help correct that as well. But again, good customer feel, good experience. Also, safety concerns go behind that as well. And then again, just max efficiency, helping cars get through there and not clog up the lines. Look at the second rendering here. Another picture you can see is a dog wash. It's another thing we're kind of proud of. I don't believe there's another dog wash in Raymore. Another nice thing about ours, some of the ones I have seen are outside. Ours will be fully enclosed, climate controlled, so it doesn't matter the middle of winter or the heat of the summer. It'll be comfortable in there to wash your pets. And another thing is we will actually offer an unlimited program. So if you've got multiple dogs, you want to come and use it several times a month, we can do that for one fee instead of having to pay every single time you come. Another thing that we'll be doing is putting a median, as you can see there on 58 Highway. This was the proposed median to us, so we have agreed to pay for that as well. Up to $69,000 the bid we received for that, so we're okay taking care of that as designed. Lastly, the financial impact. We have agreed to pay all the local taxes. This does include the TIF, the CID, all of the city tax, the state tax, our city and council tax, or I'm sorry, not the city and county, not state. But we also pay the TIF and the CID just as a sales tax producing business would. Lastly, we are all local. We're here from Cass County. Me and all my partners live here. We're from Harrisonville, Peculiar, and Raymore. So we're not just a big out-of-town company that's just coming in to throw these up. I mean, we live here, we work here, we care about the community, we care about customers. We want to make sure that we're giving the best customer satisfaction, the best customer experience that we can. If there's any issues, we want to make sure that we take care of those. So also one of the reasons we held a good neighbor meeting is because if there was any concerns, we wanted to be able to address them. So outside of that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
You said you held a good neighbor meeting. I didn't see notes about a good neighbor meeting. Did no one show up, or?
So there was a good neighbor meeting held. There was one person who showed up. We had actually sent out 48 different notices to property owners within the area, and actually there was a couple of houses that were kind of, they weren't within the 185-foot distance, but we felt that it was necessary to go ahead and hit the entire block. And so one person showed up. In fact, they left pleased with the project.
And then second question, I know you said that you're going to be building up, and so that will help to where the lights won't hit the residents behind you for the most part. Is it just you're going to be building up, or is there going to be any screen or anything? Because like any landscaping?
Yeah, yes. So we will have a screen on the west wall, or on the west boundary. On the south boundary, As it sits right now, the last conversation with our engineer, I don't believe a screen was going to be needed on the back, but we were absolutely going to do landscaping, so trees and shrubs and things of that nature. We're open to putting up, a fence or a screen on that side, but due to the elevations that we were going to keep, didn't feel that was necessary at all.
Thank you.
And we thought landscaping's a little better looking than fences sometimes.
Love the dog wash, by the way.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Any questions? Mr. Bevelin?
Thank you, sir. Just a quick question. I love the design of the building. It looks clean and it looks classy.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, why did you choose that spot in Raymore? I think it's fabulous you're wanting to come to Raymore. I'm not certain that spot right there in the middle of residential areas on almost all the sides or within a pretty close space is the right spot. So why did you choose that spot?
Obviously, there's several metrics that we look at. I'm sure, as you can tell, this is some major investment. And like I said, we are all local. We're all self-made. We didn't inherit millions or billions of dollars. So this is a big deal to us. So part of that is location, 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 right? We like Raymore. We love Raymore. There's a lot of good metrics. There's several metrics that we look into. But one of those, I'm sure, as you know, that the majority of traffic is to the west. The further east that you go, the traffic starts slowing down and dropping off. And those can be big differences. So due to, it's also the size of area that we need. There's other areas that weren't quite big enough for us. But again, we're making over a $7 million investment. And due to all the metrics we looked at, we got 2 different performas. We've had multiple different traffic counts from multiple different companies. And everybody kind of circled back that this was the best location for us.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. One additional question. So there is going to be traffic coming in from both directions. Do you foresee that traffic from both
As far as
directions
off
feeding
58?
into your driveway? I'd have to look at the map to look at the street names.
So if you're referring, and I apologize, if you're referring to traffic coming in off Cinnabar, I believe, which is the drive to the south.
Yes.
We actually want to eliminate that entrance, so that wouldn't be an entrance or an exit, just exactly to reduce that issue we're talking about, because we do want to keep a nice flow of traffic. So, and it flows very well with Culver's and Starbucks there. We've also had conversations with them, and we've already got easements put in place to who covers what drives, and I think all 3 of us businesses are, we want to make sure we keep the drives nice and the flow of traffic well for all 3 of us, and I think all 3 of our businesses can play well off each other and help bring business to each other. Coffee and car wash is a big deal, so having Starbucks right there, and everybody wants to wash their car and get a cup of coffee.
So I was looking at the traffic coming in off Foxwood and the traffic coming in off Mott. Both those will be coming from different directions into your parking lot, it looks like.
So it should be the same exact traffic flow as what's already there. Again, we actually are having a shared drive. We gave Starbucks an easement, so we will be having a shared drive again. So nothing changes. We'll have some curbing and things, obviously, to make sure that people enter. Again, I apologize, I can't pull that picture up, but if it's in front of you there, they enter kind of on the south side of our building and loop around. But again, it's where, if you're coming on off Mott, from the east, that drive should come straight in and basically enter straight into our wash. Does that answer your question?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Mr. Dizzer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just want to make sure and have council understand, for purposes of this evening, it's not a site plan approval that we're doing. Absolutely appreciate the questioning as to, hey, why this location, why the stacking and all of that to go along with it. The information before the council this evening for consideration is whether or not the council is willing to consider the resolution for the non-tax base amendment to the TIF plan for it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dizzer, for that clarification and bringing us back on track. Particular to that, granted, it's within the TIF that something like this requires the council's approval, deviating from the existing TIF plan?
The plan that is currently in place calls for a certain percentage of the businesses that go in here to be sales tax generating. And it allows the council to make exception to that, but only the council to make exception to that. Because this is a non-sales tax generating business, but they have an alternate proposal as far as a pilot payment to the council that would equal that for the local jurisdictions. It was determined that the council is still having to waive, because the business is a non-sales tax generating business, the council would have to make a determination whether you want to waive that. Even though it's not filling up the entire site, it is large enough that the percentage with the remaining vacant site would not be able to hit the percentage that's in the actual development agreement of the TIF.
And given that, has one of these been proposed before with our existing TIFs? Something of this nature?
No.
And
Sir.
Understanding that thought pattern, just for my own edification, does this kind of set precedents, so should another potential business of whatever sort wants to put in something smaller that may not be a TIF tax generating entity, also create kind of a dilemma for us to have to decide?
I would say that any future TIF agreement that includes similar language with regard to percentages of area that have tax producing, yes.
Mr. Berenson.
And just to clarify, the city does support this, is that correct?
There was a considerable amount of back and forth on this. I had indicated to the developer that we would not be able to recommend this unless they figured out some way to regenerate the sales tax that was associated with this. And they have checked that box, so they have checked the boxes they need to for staff, so it comes with staff recommendation.
And as far as opposition to this, I'm assuming the letter we got from the school district, is that for this program or for a different pilot?
That is for a later agenda item, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Forster.
Thank you. Back to, so we've got to where they've met the mark to where the money, is that going to get to the schools as well, or to or is that just for the city?
It is all the local taxing
All the
jurisdictions.
local, okay, thank you.
And this particular TIF was in place and approved by the board back in 2009, if I read the letter correctly that's here.
Yes. Thank you.
And each of these, and this, I'm thinking out loud here, and with respect to this particular TIF, because you could probably glean from my hesitation some questions I have or concerns with reducing our capacity within this TIF for a non-taxing entity, and the impacts based on what was approved by the board back in 2009 on the anticipation of what was to be in this particular area, business they were looking for, and then the precedents. So I'm curious on, and I believe you answered Ms. Forster's question, staff putting together the proposal as it is today to have something for the board the council to consider based on the ask of the developer. Is that correct?
That'd be correct, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any further questions? Staff? If there's no further questions, I entertain a motion to dispose of Resolution 2304. Hearing no motion to move this matter forward, this matter, I would believe, dies for lack of a motion.
Dies for lack of a motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Fairborn. Moving on to the next agenda item under new business, could you please read the first reading of Bill 3780 on agenda item B?
The first reading of Bill 3780 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Schlegel and Associates, PA, for the design of the Johnston Drive Improvements Project in the amount of $59,096 and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you. Is there a staff report on this item?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Kraft to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. What you have before you this evening is a contract with Schlegel and Associates to complete the design of Johnson Drive from Harmon Drive to Dean Avenue. If council will recall, there was a development proposal called Alara that was going in the basically on the west side of Dean Avenue between Johnson Drive and Lucy Webb Road. As part of that, Schlegel was the engineer for that project. We had started negotiations with the developer for a reimbursement, similar to what we've done with the Parkside development and with Sunset Lane to construct Johnson Drive. The Alara subdivision is not proceeding forward, so what we are recommending is engaging Schlegel to pick up where they left off and complete the design of Johnson Drive. That concludes staff report.
Thank you. Is there any questions of staff? Given that we're using existing contractor, if you will, for lack of a better term, is this bid, because we didn't go out for bid, is this in keeping with what market rates would be?
And actually, I think there's a cost benefit to us with this, because going out for proposals, there's costs in developing the proposals. They've already done some preliminary design, so someone else would have to start from scratch. We do recommend that and believe this is the best way to proceed.
Thank you. Any further questions of staff? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Holman.
Sir, I move that at this time we approve Bill 3780, award of contract for the Johnson Drive improvements to Schlegel.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. Moving on to item C, can I have the first reading of Bill 3781 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3781 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing city manager to enter into an agreement with Legacy Underground Construction Incorporated for the Mayberry Court Waterline Project, City Project Number 23-419-201, in the amount of $80,475, and authorizing city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Kraft to make a staff report on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Staff is recommending award of this contract to Legacy Underground Construction. The project involves the replacement of the water line along Mayberry Court within the Brookside subdivision. There has been a history of water main breaks on this line. When staff has excavated to make the repairs, we've noted that the line is in a corroded condition. We would anticipate that additional breaks would occur. They always seem to occur under driveways, which are also expensive, so we do recommend award of this contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions of staff on this item? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Holman.
Sir, I move at this time that we approve Bill 3781, award of contract for the Mayberry Court Water Line Replacement Project to Legacy Underground Construction.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the item? Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to item D, may I have the first reading of Bill 3782 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3782 by title only, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for a warehouse/distribution center project, a development and performance agreement between the City of Raymore, Missouri, and Urban SR LLC, and authorizing the city to issue its taxable revenue bonds in an aggregated maximum principal amount not to exceed $115 million for the purpose of providing funds to pay for the cost of equipping and improving a warehouse and distribution center in the city, and authorizing certain agreements and other actions by the city.
Thank you. Is there a staff report on this item?
Thank you. I would ask Mr. Keller to begin the staff report on this item.
Thank you. Hello again, Pro Tem and Council. Tonight, introducing newly a subsidiary of Urban Outfitters. You guys already heard the intro, but in 2019, the Raymore City Council approved Bill 3501, which provided real property tax abatement for property within the Raymore Commerce Center to the developer of record Van Trust Real Estate as a means of attracting new businesses and primary employers to the community. So tonight, we have newly. I will now invite Sarah Granith with Gilmore and Bell to provide their report and answer any questions you have. I will then invite David Zeal, Chief Development Officer with Urban Outfitters, to say a few words and answer any questions you have as well.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Tonight before you is a Chapter 100 plan and related documents to implement the plan for abatement on personal property. So as Mr. Keller mentioned previously, you've seen me here before, for some of the Raymore Commerce Center buildings, this will be in Building 3. So the real property is already abated. This is just for the personal property going inside. And I believe Newly will probably explain what that personal property is in more detail. But they intend to invest up to $115 million in 2 phases. The first phase will be approximately $50 million in equipment and $20 million in building improvements. Those improvements, again, they will explain in more detail, but it'll be an elevator, a mezzanine, and some interior walls to the building. The second phase will include $45 million in equipment. As I mentioned, the abatement is on the equipment only. So the abatement terms are 10 years from the date of purchase for each investment, and it is approximately 97% abatement. You'll see a little bit more detail on that in the documents in your packet. They will also make annual pilot payments for that approximately 3% portion that is not abated. Those will go in a pro rata distribution to all the taxing jurisdictions. The building improvements will already be abated under the current Raymore Commerce Center plan, so there's no additional abatement there. However, there's a sales and use tax exemption that is also being considered that will impact the personal property purchase. There's preliminary approval from the state of Missouri on those personal property purchases up to $40 million. And then also a sales and use tax exemption on the construction materials for both personal and real property. So again, before you is the plan and cost benefit analysis. This was mailed to taxing jurisdictions as statutorily required. And once the presentations are finished, you will open the taxing jurisdiction hearing in case any of those taxing jurisdictions are here to speak tonight. And then also to be approved in the ordinance are bond documents to implement the abatement and transfer that personal property to city ownership, similar to how the real property abatement works in that instance. But I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have. Otherwise, I'll open it up for Newly to explain a little bit more about their business. Thank you.
Hello, council members. I'm fresh off a plane from Philadelphia. So congratulations. It was a good game. I'm Dave Zeal, Chief Development Officer at Urban Outfitters. If you'll give me a second, I'll tell you a little bit more about us. We have multiple brands. Anthropologie, Urban Outfitters, Free People, and Terrain are our primary brands. I've had the pleasure to be I had the pleasure 6 years ago to enter the KCK region and bring our first project to the region. It's our Omni Fulfillment. So we're a born and raised Philadelphia company. We have large distribution functions both east and west. was really proud. I came and worked with the state of Missouri, the state of Kansas. I can tell you that Raymore for our big facility was our Missouri finalist. We chose Kansas at the end, most of it positional situation and building situation, but really enjoyed our time with this great city. So here I am. I promised everybody it wouldn't take but 2 years, and Newly is our most exciting new concept. No pun intended, Newly. But it's a very sustainable concept. So think of rental, clothing, rent the runway, so forth. So this is a great opportunity. The consumer base has responded beautifully to it. So the building, to explain how the building works, this is rental products. So we thought we struggled in COVID, as expected, because everybody's wearing sweatpants and slippers. But as we've come out, and even when you hear the words of a potential recession, this has given another shopping avenue to the consumer, and one that's much more responsible. So the primary goal here is retail soft good companies. The amount of materials that go into landfill is a tremendous issue. And this really is our first venture and one of our biggest pieces of our CSR sustainability initiatives as a corporation. The building is the equipment, the personal property is very, very big. So it has an industrial laundry component to it. The best way I explain it is when you see it, you're like, wow, it's awful big, but actually the chemical compositions they use in that laundry, and when we go home and throw a Tide Pod in, it does more damage than all the water we discharge in a single day, really. So the laundry thing and the component, and then the rest of the facility is an automated carousel system. So when you go over on the Speedway side, on the Kansas side, so now we're really excited about being on both sides. You look at that situation, it's a lot of automation, but a lot of jobs. This is a little bit more, a lesser technology, but it's a storage and retrieval system. For us, on a layman's terms, if you kind of went into your dry cleaner and you see the automated, put that on, an awful lot of steroids, and that's what you would see in the facility. It's a competitive process for me. When we come into town, we bring a lot of jobs. We're excited in the region. So when I came back before Kansas, Missouri, and then we went to several different finalist opportunities, both on the Missouri side and the Kansas side. Was really proud to come back and start that relationship with the Van Trust Group on the Raymore side and the city of Raymore again. The city of Raymore and the mayor, we've met several times. It was a fan favorite, but a very competitive process in round one. So it really feels good to be able to bring another piece of our equation of Urban Outfitters over here into the city of Raymore. So, 2 phases, as explained earlier. We always undershoot our numbers, both on dollars, phases, and jobs. So we're excited. 750 employees. It's a smaller facility than what you see over in Kansas by a lot. But this is a really interesting job mix, and I want to share that with the group tonight. This is a unique facility. So we actually, our partnerships will start to happen with vocational schools and opportunities here in the Raymore area. We have seamstress functions that are very, very big. Clothing repair, seamstress functions, engineering functions, both on the chemical side and the mechanical side with our laundry. So this is a different mix of employees than you would see in a standard distribution facility with a retailer. So we're really, really excited. Good supervisory roles. We feel very, very confident in the labor force. We always have in Raymore, and we've always felt very confident with the welcome we've had to try to bring an urban business here. So, and this will not be the last urban business. We've picked the KCK region. We love the people. We love the workforce. I'm on trip 64 in 6 years, and our board of directors, because these are our single largest investments we've made in the region, have asked me to make sure I oversee these projects. So we're super, super excited. We're way down the road, looking very good in design. Can't wait to hopefully get that opportunity. It was a tough decision. My friends in Kansas might not be so happy, but we're extremely happy to have this opportunity in this very competitive environment these days with jobs. But thank you for your time. Any questions for me on the concept? Or any questions in general?
Yes, sir. Good presentation. What are your estimates for numbers on job creation on this project?
750 is our first ramp up through the phase 1 and phase 2. Building square footage is 603,000 feet.
Just so I'll get 750 new jobs here in Raymore. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct, sir.
Thank you.
Questions? Sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Are there any other staff reports on this item? I believe, if I heard correctly, that we need to open this up to the taxing jurisdictions for input. So if there's anyone representing the taxing jurisdictions that have comment or, on this particular item, please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Your Honor. At this point in time, I would like to make note to the council, as you all can see in front of you, you do have a piece of correspondence that did come from the school district. I know that they met last Thursday night. I had a conversation with the superintendent of schools late Friday night regarding that. My understanding from the letter is that they will be directing him to get in touch with me for future conversation on where they would like to see future incentives of any kind go. And so I indicated to him that I would make on the public record note that we have received a letter from them, which is in front of you this evening.
Understood. Thank you, sir. Yes, Ms. Forster.
Thank you. Speaking about with the school, so I know that we've talked about where they're going to be paying the 3%, so they will get, and that'll go to all the taxing jurisdictions, so they will get something. But is there a way where, so it sounds like the school's upset because they're losing money if we do this. But I guess if we don't do this, then there's no money to lose because it wouldn't be here.
Well put. I'll let that rest, yes. One of the things that whenever there's an incentive, one of the things that we often hear, staff hears it, I know you all hear it, is that this is taking money out of people's pockets. As you can see, it is a difference between, it is not taking money out of people's pockets. No one is losing money on the issue. Everyone will be getting money on the issue. It will not be as much as if there wasn't an incentive on. If the council would like to know on this particular process, we do have numbers that we provided to you all.
Mr. Holmes.
Yeah, I was going to have a question along those lines. I'd like to read a couple of lines from the letter that the superintendent has provided to us. And it says, we're concerned about the impact these pilot programs have on our school district's tax base. And these, I jump ahead, these pilot programs directly affect our ability to support various initiatives. So my ask would be, there's no children here, there's no cost burden to them from this project. What would they take in without this project versus what will they take in with this project? A very apples to apples comparison, sir.
Mr. Keller?
So per year, just on building 3, which is the 1 million square foot building, their property tax income was $250 a year. That was before Van Trust invested in the speculative building. And then now with Newly and the pilot payments coming out of the real and personal property, over 20 years, the school should receive about $3.6 million in pilot payments.
Yes, sir.
So a follow-up question, sir. It sounds to me, and let me just lump a few other things in there. We heard creation of 750 jobs, new jobs within the city. I believe Governor Parson and the State Economic Development Group heralded this coming of Newly to our city, plus the positive tax impact to the school district. Is that correct? Are all those statements correct, sir?
Yes, the state did invest heavily in this project as well, based on job creation. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Got a question more to staff about this letter. The letter is signed by the superintendent, but in the beginning, it talks about their Board of Education. Was there a resolution done? Was there anything, I mean, it starts out, it's a Board of Education, but then it's just signed by the superintendent, so I'm a little confused.
When the superintendent contacted me on Friday night, he indicated that he had been instructed by his board to send me a letter. I don't believe there was a resolution, sir.
Ms. Fortune.
I know this is probably too late for this, but in a way to try to appease, because obviously school is very important, I mean, similar to the car wash where we kind of tried to work a deal to incentivize, is there a way in the future that maybe we could have something where if we do a Chapter 100, then they agree to also pay some more to help the schools? Or just trying to figure out a way to kind of make everyone happy?
And I believe that that was the superintendent's intent in saying he would like to meet with me relative to moving forward and something that could be agreed upon, whether it be through the incentive package or something else. Job creation, as David indicated earlier, they will be reaching out to the vocational schools for help with some of that as well.
Mr. Devoy.
Just a quick note, I mean, I'm not sure if this really fits right now, but I loved the way he mentioned that the vocational schools, we have the new lead center in town, and so I think, in my opinion, it sounds like the superintendent wrote this letter per the direction of his board, expressing concern in general about pilots. I love that Mr. Fearborn's going to work with him to come to an understanding between the city and the school district about, as we move forward with this, what would you prefer they look like, and have that conversation. But that letter and those pilots don't really address what Jay pointed out, the jobs it's bringing, and don't address the non-monetary benefits we'll get, such as that partnership with our lead center and the training our students can get to help them be more successful in life. I think the school district expressed concern like they feel like they should when there's any kind of tax incentive. But I do have to say, in this letter, I don't get the opinion that the superintendent's asking us not to approve this. So, thank you.
Mr. Burke.
I was going to give my opinion on the letter as 20-year union treasurer of RAPAC NEA. And when this town was booming, teachers did not see increases in their salaries. When this town was not booming, when the whole country was having trouble, we actually had pay freezes. Even though many of us took out loans to get extra degrees, I have had to get 2 extra degrees since I've been teaching there and taking out loans each time. And we had to fight tooth and nail to get them to give us what they promised us if we took out these loans. So I really feel like the line about teacher salaries is a little disingenuous. Since I've been on council since 2015, we've raised the assessed valuation of that district hundreds of millions of dollars. Frankly, I don't think the teachers feel like they see any of that. And that's my opinion.
Thank you, sir. If there's no further questions.
You need to close that portion, sir.
Okay, thank you. Seeing if there's no further questions or comments of the taxing jurisdictions, I'll close that portion of the agenda and move on to if there's any other questions of staff at this time. Mr. Holman.
Just a little extrapolation of Councilmember Delgawood's comment. Mr. Keller, 750 new jobs, it's reasonable to assume that at least some of those people would likely locate or relocate in Raymore, in real property. therefore contributing even further to the tax base of all the taxing jurisdictions. Is that a correct assumption, sir?
Yes. I could also say 750 jobs is attractive to other retailers. And so that the Cass corridor, Dean and Cass, is something that we've been focusing on. And we have been in contact with a few other retailers just because of this announcement. So,
thank you, sir.
Since you're at the, so far, we're going to have about 1,400 between Southern Glaciers and this?
yeah, I think Southern Glaciers was 300, I believe. Yeah.
About 1,000? Okay.
Yeah, it's about
Thank you.
1,000. Mhm.
Thank you. Questions of staff? Then I'll entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Holman.
Sir, I move at this time that we approve Bill 3782, the plan for warehousing and distribution center and Building 3 personal property Chapter 100 bond issuance.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
There's been a motion and a second on this item. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Mr. Dugwan.
Just a quick comment. Thank you for choosing Raymore as your number 2.
There's no further questions or comments. All those in favor? Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to the next agenda item E, may I have the first reading of Bill 3779 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3779 by title only, an ordinance reappointing Ross Nigro Jr. as municipal judge for the city of Raymore.
Thank you. Can I have a staff report on this item?
I would ask Mr. Azur to make a staff report on this item, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Fairborn. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, what you have before you this evening with regard to Bill 3779 is the reappointment of Judge Ross Nigro to serve as the municipal judge pursuant to Article 7, Section 7.2 of the Charter. You all had the opportunity to meet with Judge Nigro recently. You understand the transitions that are occurring within the municipal court and the continued implementation of the court system from OSCA. Judge Nigro is here in the audience this evening and happy to answer any questions, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions you might have. That would conclude staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Zers. Any questions of staff or Judge Nigro? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Holman.
Sir, at this time, I move that we approve Bill 3779, reappointment of Ross Nigro as the municipal judge for the city of Raymore.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, sir. Seeing there's been a motion and a second, before I entertain a vote, Mr. Nigro, I'm sorry, I saw you stepping up there for a second. Did you want to have some comments?
Everybody was making a motion. I'm not usually on this side of the podium very often. But I do want to say something before you approve it or before you vote, is I also approve the support I get from the city. I appreciate the opportunity to serve as your judge, but I also get great support from the city, especially with all the changes. I mean, not only the different Senate bills we had to go through, COVID, now the transformation to the Show Me Court system. The city's been great to work with, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for your diligence in guiding us through this process as well. It's been very helpful. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mr. Barber.
I just had a question for Judge. I just wanted to know if working with the new presiding judge, is he hard to work with?
He has been great so far. We've had a few conversations already with some of the new laws that passed, the new constitutional amendment and how that's going to apply, and he's been great. He's been on top of it and given me some information right away.
Well, if he gets out of line, let me know, okay?
I will.
All right, thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. The motion's been made and seconded. There's no further discussion on this item. All those in favor? Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to the last agenda item, F. May I have the first reading of Bill 3777 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3777 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to enter into an employment agreement with Jim Fearborn for the services of city manager, authorizing approval of this ordinance and execution of the contract herein for the orderly administration of the legal, administrative, and contractual matters of the city.
Thank you. Is there a staff report on this item?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'll be providing the staff report this evening with regard to Bill number 3777. 3777. What you have this evening before you is an extended and amended agreement for employment of Mr. Jim Fearborn serving as city manager. You all had the opportunity to complete evaluations of Mr. Fearborn pursuant to the terms of his contract and pursuant to the terms of the charter, specifically with regard to Article 5 of the charter. The proposed bill and incorporating amended employment agreement you have before you this evening will extend out the proposed contract to September 1st, 2023, thereby extending the term for an additional year and increasing the base salary pursuant to the terms and information instructions you all provided to me. I'm happy to answer any additional questions you all might have. I'm sure Mr. Fearborn would be happy to answer any questions that you all would have as well. That would conclude staff report.
Thank you, sir. Is there any questions to staff? Seeing none, that will entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Mr. Holman.
Sir, at this time, I move that we approve Bill 3777, approving the extended and amended employment agreement with the city manager, Jim Fearborn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will proudly second the motion.
There's been a motion and a motion been made and seconded on this item. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Holman.
Sir, I would just like to take the opportunity to state that Mr. Fearborn has been an exceptional, long-time, and faithful city employee of the city of Raymore. If you were to write down the definition of servant leadership, to use an old joke, his picture would be next to it, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments, questions? I would also like to echo the same. Mr. Fearborn is a sought-after steward of the city. I appreciate your wise counsel. You're a mentor to other city managers. In this particular fight that we're in, your sage advice and your steadied hand is guiding the city through this fight that we're in with respect to the landfill. And we look forward to continuing our relationship as is presented in this bill and continue to be, we're looking forward to winning that fight as everyone continues to lead in that effort. So if there's no further discussions on this item, I would entertain, I believe we've done that. No, entertain a motion to dispose of this item. We did all.
You already have that, Your Honor.
And I have a check on my little box here. So all those in favor of this item? Thank you. The motion carries 8-0. And I believe that brings us to the end of our new business. Brings us to the public comments. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. And please keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Seeing no one running forward to the podium, I'll move on to the next item for mayor and council comments. And seeing how I'm running the show tonight, I'll start with Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I just wanted to make a little comment on, I'll be taking a trip to Jeff City tomorrow with a group from the city for the committee meeting on the Bill 909. Also had the pleasure of attending a meeting that Mr. Hafner and Mr. Bratton attended, which they talked about both of their bills. And I will tell you from that meeting, and Mr. Holman was there as well, that they are fighting for us in Jeff City. They are 1,000% on our side. They've gotten some momentum with the group down there. So make sure you still communicate. But we do have some friends in Jeff City. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mr. Barrington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Pardon me. I will welcome back Mr. Fearborn. Glad to have you back with us, sir, once again for another year. And glad we got through that contract negotiation. It was pretty easy to do. So what went on tonight? Welcome Newly. That's going to be an amazing addition to Raymore. We look forward to especially seeing those new careers, new jobs coming to our town. And lastly, I would like to thank the Raymore Peculiar School District for writing us the letter. Although it is somewhat vague as whether we were supposed to support this, I would encourage them to continue conversation with us for future projects, and hopefully we can get a resolution for some of this stuff beforehand. And that concludes my comments, sir.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Forster?
Thank you. I just want to say I look forward to hearing everybody's comments on Thursday, and I hope we have a huge turnout. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wills?
Thank you, sir. I also wanted to say I hope that we have a great turnout on Thursday, February 16th at the public hearing discussing the landfill. And I also wanted to say thank you to Newly. This is going to be phenomenal for Raymore, and I'm excited to see the positive effects that this has on our city. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Abdelgawan.
Thank you, sir. I'll just echo the extended invitation for people to join us on Thursday, February 16th. We'll be at Centerview, which is just right here behind City Hall, at 6 o'clock. Come one, come all. If you don't want to come, well, if you come, you can come and watch. You don't have to talk or come and speak about your feelings about the landfill. We're hoping to have a very large crowd, and if you don't come, you are able to watch online just so you can learn more about what's happening, about the possible impacts, and find that we have many people in opposition, we suspect. So again, hopefully we'll see lots of faces on Thursday this week at Centerview. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Holman.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would concur with the previous comments, and I would like to state for the record that I, like probably everybody in here, watched the Super Bowl yesterday, and I was very pleased with the outcome, and I think that our hometown team, the Kansas City Chiefs, have an exceptional team. They have great teamwork and great leadership. It is good for Andy Reid that his competition is Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles. For if Mr. Feuerborn were to take his team against them, I think they would have an even bigger challenge than what they had yesterday, sir. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I was kind of disappointed to learn that the Alair project developers have seemingly lost a lot of interest in the project. It was right after I had mentioned something in a comment like this about maybe looking at protecting some of our trees, and also I also want to look at the invasive species trees that are growing places. So you got good trees, you got bad trees that are killing out the natural oak and whatever else. But I was really disappointed how the next day we had or very soon after, we had an in-service day, so I was able to leave the school and have lunch at Burger King, and drove by, and people were like, "What? Why are all these stumps sticking up 3 feet out of the ground?" And now that's what we have. So I hope that project continues forward at some point, and it becomes beautiful again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Burke.
One last thing. So you can imagine what I feel about a landfill.
Outstanding. Two things you reminded me of a conversation I had on specifically on the Allure project, which is in Ward 1. I too had the similar, like what happened to the trees, but as I understand it, I believe those trees, the property owner did that on their own accord in preparation for potential development. And then secondly, the process worked as designed. That particular PUD had specific requirements, and with the market being what it was, got to be too expensive to put in the product that they had signed up to do, and they requested a lesser product, and they went somewhere else because we wouldn't deviate from what they had said they would do. So in those two instances, the latter worked in our favor because we had a PUD that required a specific quality of product because the market was changing and requiring more money to put that product in, and we wouldn't deviate from our request. They decided to go elsewhere. So kudos to staff putting in those PUDs and making sure that as developers come forward with their plans, we hold them to the plan. And to my colleagues as well, this Thursday, specifically tomorrow first, a few of us will be going down to Jeff City to continue to carry the flag and the mantle regarding our landfill fight. We will carry that message loud to the legislators in the committee meeting tomorrow, and then we would definitely want to hear from all of our residents, all of those who are not necessarily Raymore residents, but are concerned about this particular development that's being proposed in the area. So we'd love to see everyone come out. It's an open mic night, if you will. So we're here as long as you are to hear and get recorded on the record your opinion about this particular landfill. So again, on this Thursday, we start at 6 p.m. It's the interview behind us here, so we'd love to see everyone out. I believe if there's no further comments or questions,
There's no need for executive session tonight, sir.
outstanding, because we have to get on the road for tomorrow morning. So excellent. I appreciate that adjustment to the agenda tonight. If there's no further action items, there's no need to go into executive session. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Mr. Holman.
I move at this time that we adjourn this session of the Raymore City Council meeting.
Excellent. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
I don't think we needed a second, but we are all in favor. All those in favor? We are adjourned.